Hello and welcome to Dero's Comic School and to the Endtimes TCG. And today the video will be called How I Helped My Nephew Make a Board Game. Yeah, and this is how it started. Um, this is in German because for documentation, and this were the first ideas. And here are some of the characters and stuff we worked on, but it all changed with time, as you can see here, and I will guide you through it. So, where do we start? First of all, my nephew, how do you say it, is in the eighth grade, and he had to do a project, and he wanted to do a game, and he knew I was deep into board games and card games. And so he asked me if I can help. And same as the A team, I said yes, we do that. It wasn't as easy as we thought it would be. Well, I know that it is a ton of work to put in these cards. It's just work, and doing it is the work. And as you can see here, first plans and stuff and all of this. So you're asking, Dario, why are you doing this video? So it is for everybody who wants to do games, for everybody who enjoys games, who is thinking about making a board game or a card game. And so this is a small tutorial. Let me set a timer so that it is not super long, the video, and let's get right into it. So let me go back to the idea, and yeah. So my nephew asked me, can we do a game? And let me wait for a second. Let me open up here also the Endtimes TCG card game. I'm also working on a card game for everybody watching from the Endtimes TCG. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta start doing the work, and doesn't matter. This is the lesson number one. Lesson number one, if you can imagine it, lesson number one is like beginning with the end in mind and then start doing the work. It doesn't have to be good. Like as you can see here, just some pretty rough sketches, some layouts. I've written down the high school Padres shotgun. Padres shotgun says where is the frame? I sent you back to hell. Amen. Some cheesy stuff from the 90s definitely will come into this. Or Randy the Ram is a wrestler. He's immune to painkillers and all of that. So this is what I want to show you. We'll come back at the end. But this is like the first sketches when we were starting out. Like my nephew wanted to do a card game or a board game or a book, and I recommended him a board game because a card game in my head was a bit too complex. Like a board game seemed to me to be the easier thing, and as you can see here, I was thinking very much at the game. How do you call it? Hexenmeister vom Flammenden Berg. Let me see. Hexenmeister vom Flammenden Berg. What's it called in English? This one. This one. And it's a game like this. Something like the Warlock from the Flaming Hilltop Mountain or something like that. Let me make this bigger. And as you can see, this is beautiful. And you walk around with your four heroes that you choose, or is that Hero Quest? Hero Quest. Let's say it's similar to Hero Quest, and it is similar to this game. And so I lay out the plan, and because where he lives near Munich, he goes into a place called Heldenverlies, and it's like a dungeon, and you have to level up, and there are puzzles to solve and stuff like that. And so in that game, which he role plays with his friends, there is an elf, a warrior, a dwarf, and a magician. And so his roles, I wrote them down, or that's how I write. I just draw. That's how I think. I think in drawings. That's also a very important lesson. Some people don't write down everything, they write down in pictures. And so we have here the monster cards and the treasure cards, and you walk through this dungeon. I was also pretty much thinking about something like Heroes of New Earth, Dota, League of Legends, something, or Diablo 2, where you go into a dungeon, there are some monsters, you hit those monsters, you slay them, you get the loot, you get stronger. And as you can see, here are the level 1 monsters, the level 2 monsters, the level 3 monsters, and up here is the final boss. You have a dice, a couple of dice, and then yeah, and these are the rooms. And I was thinking maybe you put your figure on some tiles like this, and yeah, a roguelike. And then you move through the rooms and you do your dice work. And yeah, and pretty much everything. This is step one, the idea, how should it look like? Then this is a step further where he explained me how the rooms look like where he plays, and that there's a kitchen, a laboratory, some woods, then there's a final boss, then there's an upper world and a shadow world. And I was thinking very much about something like Munchkins or TCGs or Pokemon, where here you have your treasure, and here you have your monsters, and here's your playable figure, which you put on a board. And then this is your board, your doors, up here, your final boss. As you can see, a bit like Magic the Gathering, like you got here your monster, it's a red, it has 1 health, 1 attack, and here we need the heroes, we need the play mat or something like this, or the gaming board, and then maybe we have 3 characters, which I was thinking about: dexterity, intelligence, and strength. Really basic, like this one has more life, this one has more damage, and this one has more mobility, dexterity, or I don't know, hits better on the hit. And then you got like your monsters, your treasure cards, and you level up. And from there, yes, you can see zooming in, pretty rough sketches, but this is your phase 2, where your phase 1 is just bare idea, bare minimum idea, and phase 2 is you gotta start moving, you gotta start sucking. I don't care if you're Ed Sheeran, if you're a musician, if you're a drummer, if you make a game, if you trying to get in the best shape of your life, you just gotta start. Your first product will not be good, so you just gotta start and keep implementing. So this is not the first point. Let me see. Gaming cards. Like this is where the cards started. As you can see, um, on Sunday or Sunday, I was done just starting out. I wanted to do just 4 characters for him, or barely just 2 characters, so he could play the game. And I started with a grid. I didn't measure like the cards, but I went for poker card size format, because I knew that when you play this game or Hero Quest, you get like the hero cards, and or do I remember it right? I think you get some cards, and the barbarian has some certain movement, some certain strengths, and all of that stuff. And then you move around the board, and same with this game. This is how the game looks, and you get some stats, and here are the figures, pretty similar. So I was thinking, this is already improved. I was thinking, okay, I put down a grid, with poker sized cards. I don't know. It's 88 millimeters to 63 millimeters, and I then I show you. Should I show you the PDF file? Because once you see how I as you can see here that that's the illustration. This is not where I started. I started putting down the grid right here. The layer one is just a basic grid, and I think I put down the first grid, as you can see, right here at roughly 63 millimeters to roughly 88 millimeters, and then I copy pasted this, and I made a 9. In comics, we say a 9-panel grid, and then I put in a box. This is the first thing I did. A box where I just put in dwarf, warrior, magician, elf, wizard, Amazon, barbar. Like four would have been enough, but I know myself. I wanted to go always all out. And then the second thing I did put in this was like, as you can see, like strength or damage, magic, dexterity, and life. Like this is the important things I needed. And as you can see, I mean, this is just one card multiplied to 9, different names or character pieces, and then I just put in, we need a strength characteristics or a damage characteristics, maybe some magic, maybe some dexterity and life. Like damage and life. Pretty basic, pretty bare bones. And then I put in the illustrations, and now, as you can see, not even good drawings, but decent drawings. And this one looks like Hulk Hogan. This one I stole from Diablo 1. And as you can see, the mage doesn't do great damage, but he has great magical abilities. His dexterity ain't that high. His life isn't that high. The warrior has decent damage, decent magic, decent dexterity, decent life. The dwarf, good amount of life, not low dexterity, low magic, above average damage. And then we go on. We create the Amazon. The magician is just mirrored to a sorceress, so we have male and female, but stats are the same. We have an elf, and then we have a barbarian. And from here, we're already tweaking the game pieces. And then we go to character cards, because like from Age of Sigmar, then I stole, okay, let's see. If we have a monster and the monster now bumps into a character gaming cards, like this is my first draft. Okay, we have a dwarf, a warrior, you choose whatever you want to have, and then you bump into the enemies, which is or was kid friendly at the beginning. A mouse, which is strength of 5. You might say, why is a mouse stronger than the heroes? Because the heroes will level up. So I needed some of the enemies to be a bit higher in strength and a bit higher in life or toughness, so they could take on at least one or two heroes in the dungeon. And so I created different heroes. This one is a bit weaker with weaker life, but maybe he does magical damage. And as you can see, the same for the heroes. I just copy pasted, or I just saved the hero page under a different name. I changed the names up here. I pretty much the damage characteristics are the same. This is the mage. This down here is the barbarian. This is the dwarf, and I just changed the names and the pictures. And now you have your enemies, which are up until this point just mirrors for the heroes. But then I thought, okay, let's have a hero walk up to an enemy. How do they damage? Do they damage simultaneously? Who has the initiative? And so I came up with something from, we'll come in a second to the items, and to the missions. So I came up with a different thing. In Age of Sigmar, there's something called to wound or to hit. And so you use a dice, and you on a 4, 5, or 6, like here on a 4 plus, on a 5, 4, or 6, you hit your target and you deal damage, the 3 up here. Same for the enemy. If the enemy is like a flying eye, like he hits on a 3 plus and he deals you 2 damage, and the flying eye has 8 health. And yeah, in the first version, these didn't have any damage characteristics, and then they got them, and it's better because now it is not sure if you hit or if you deal damage, and we have made combat now just a bit more random, and with that random, we have made it a bit more tactical and a bit more exciting, because like if you walk up with your dwarf, you try to hit, but the dwarf doesn't have that high of a dexterity, so he hits on a 4 plus, on a 4, a 5, or a 6. He has higher damage and a higher health pool, but he doesn't hit as good. In comparison, the warrior deals 3 damage, but he's a decent warrior. He hits on a 3, on a 3 plus. This is like a space marine. He hits on a 3 plus, on a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. Has decent life, but hits a bit better. So the magician hits on a 4, deals just 1 damage, 3 life. With this guy, you shouldn't seek close combat. With this guy, you could seek close combat with the elf because he hits on a 2 plus. He almost always hits. He just misses on a 1 plus, but he has very low life at the beginning of the game. So you might call him squishy. The Amazon is not as squishy. She has the same characteristics, kind of like the warrior. Deals a bit of less damage, but hits better. So as you can see, pretty much they have all the same stats, but the flavor is just a bit more different. And the barbarian pretty much is brute force, 5 life, 4 damage, 0 magic, but he hits on a 4 plus. So if he swings and misses, he definitely can take the hit, but on a 4 plus, it's not that high. And then here we have some of my first enemies, and I increased the life on these so they could be more of a challenge to a group. So we have here a kitchen mouse, a poisonous mushroom, a scruffle. Don't know what this is, but it is just funny. It's a melting book or a melting chocolate cake. I don't know. It's called a scruffle. Then we have a dark elf. Dark elf are always badass. Again, not that high of a damage, not that high of a life, but it hits on a 2 plus. Then we have an evil witch, an evil flying eye, and a gigantic chicken. This one I stole from Family Guy. So it has the same characteristics as the barbarian, just he has much more life. Don't mess with a giant chicken. This is what I call the video. And then, as you can see, I'm adding, because my nephew said, hey, I need a big gigantic dragon. So from the World of Warcraft TCG, I learned big gigantic dragons have 20, 30. No, wait a second. The heroes have 20 to 30 lives, so the big dragons have double the amount, like 50 to 60. And so I doubled the life for the dragon, and the dragon has 17 life, hits on a 4 plus, hits like a truck, like a dragon, and that's it. You could add some special attacks, but we kept it bare minimum. So you have some Shadow Warriors, decent life, decent damage, hit really good. And then you have a character which doesn't even fight. Now we added a game piece, or I added a game piece, which is called a treasure. This is from Resident Evil 4, the guy that said, "What are you buying? What are you selling? What are you buying?" Now, this is the treasure dealer, and you can take 2 treasures you already have, or 2 loot cards you have, put them down the loot or treasure pile, and draw a new one. And you can do that. Let's say, I don't know, there's maybe once a turn. So you can kind of cycle or give the treasures you don't need and try to get treasures you do need. Then we have a common orc, doesn't hit that well, hits like a truck, decent life. Then we have a witch, a bat, and a goblin just for flavor. And then we started adding items. And this process taught me something very great for the Endtimes TCG that I'm creating right now, is that, well, sometimes you start different phases of your game, but now is a phase of the game where you start putting together a game or proxies which you can play, like really cards in your hand, and you see if it works. You're putting in the time, you're creating items. I mean, I already knew that this would work, but because I knew how this games work, but it's not tweaked. But it's just like my nephew or my sister would print those out, and my nephew would cut them out, sleeve them up, and he had game pieces, working game pieces. If they work well, I don't know, but he had functioning game pieces, and that's a point where you can iterate, start from. And the first time I built this ladder, it gave 2 life and -2 damage from the opponents. And then I thought, man, it would be good if it's for the whole group, for the whole party. So this became like a party item or group item. And then we have a swords king, and then we have a sword for the king, and then we have a normal sword. As you can see, less damage, or the damage is swapped and the life is swapped. And then we have arrow and quiver, and then we have something more. And I started adding different artwork or different spells for the group. And so once you had the template, and that's very important, once I had this, it was very easy to add game pieces. And this is what I'm doing right now for the Endtimes TCG, which is just creating the template, which I just got here. As you can see, I got nothing. Then I get a 3mm black border. Then I get a frame, which I wanted to look like old school 90s. Then I got some text, which illustration Derry Donato, Sacred Beast Studio, 1 of 111. I got now Evil Comes to Sunnytown, that's the edition. You have a flavor text, and yeah, and that helps. Once you have a rough idea and you're starting to put the game pieces together, then and it's possible to print stuff out, then you're now creating the game. I'm closing this now, and I'm closing this too. And yeah, I'm trying to come to an end. We're now at like 20-minute mark already, over 20-minute mark. But as you can see, it's easy then once you got the system, which here is just a card, a bit of text, an illustration, and a title, and that's it. For the Endtimes TCG, it might be a bit more complicated, but as simple as you can. Keep it as simple as you can, so that you and your board game can succeed early on, and you can try. And as you can see, like at the beginning, stuff, as you can see here, I have Geschick trifft auf die 4 plus, which means dexterity hits on the 4 plus. But my nephew didn't know what it means, so I changed it to attack or Attacke Doppelpunkt, like you attack and then this happens. On a 4 plus, you hit. And that's much more intuitive. Like this is your damage, this is your attack, this is your life. Basic stuff. And yeah, and then I don't know, where are the missions? Here are the treasure cards, monster cards. Then there came the mission cards. Go to the kitchen, get 6 spider legs, go to the laboratory, find the the, how do you say, wood, the magician's head, go to the woods or to the woods of the witch and get a frog. And this is like pretty simple missions, like go there, slay the enemies, pick up the item, get rewarded. Pretty simple for doing a game, and that's how it's supposed to be done. Let's go into the final presentation and show you where it got. So we got here, let me close Photoshop so we can see it. And then like this is the beginning. We start with some sketches, then we start with to improve on the sketches. Wait a second, then we start to improve on the sketches, and then we start to make game pieces, cards. We start to improve on the game cards. We start to improve the art. Like as you can see, the art here definitely isn't as good as it gets here. Like the art is already a bit improved. Better items. This were the first items, pretty basic, just 3 to movement, 2 to damage, 1 to movement. Magicians for warriors and for movement, and then a basic potion. And yeah, and as the more you do, the better it gets, the more refined it gets. And here, cutouts, the game board, level 1. Then my nephew cut out all the cards. He's starting to improve on the map. This is his barbarian and his dwarf. The dice he used, the cards he have, bare bones. And then as you see, things implement. As you can see, I was already happy here with just black and white cards. And then my sister said, no, this have to be distinct. As you can see, improvements, blue, yellow, blue for the missions, yellow for the treasure card or items or loot, red for the heroes, and gray for the enemies. Great stuff already. And then I don't know what's going on here. And then this is alpha of the improved game board. And then as you can see, he cuts it out, and yeah, and this is it. Like this is how you do a board game or how you start doing a game. I hope you had fun, and we'll see us.